All right, here we go, folks. It is 5 or 1/5, 2025, January 5th, 2025, and we are working on another robot or mecha, of course. And this is something I wanted to do in 3D initially, but rather than start yet another Blender project and just have it sit there at 50% for another couple of years, I figured I would just hit the sketch pad and put it on paper instead and work on keep practicing the drawing skills. I did struggle a little bit with the perspective just because it was kind of a conglomeration of shapes and all going in all directions. And the one thing I had an issue with is every time I do the sweep of a wing, so it has to come back at a given angle, making that look right on both left and right side because the perspective changes. So I tend to get this weird forward. One wing looks like it's going more forward than the other, and it's an interesting dilemma. But this is roughly based off of an old cartoon, old TV show, Robotech, the Alpha Fighter. I'm taking a lot of design cues from that. If you're familiar with that, obviously not all of it, but you might recognize some of the design elements that were part of maybe Japanese animation as a whole from that era. And not something that turned into a robot completely, but just would have that aspect of vertical takeoff and landing. So you'd have a leg-like structure. I have no idea what use that would be in practical terms, but nonetheless, it's a interesting design idea. Maybe, I think, maybe not. But if I were to make it in 3D, I was thinking of coming at it from the point of view of making a 3D print of it, and I could make it actuated or posable. I've done that once before. It was quite a lift to actually accomplish that, but that's kind of why I decided to take a turn and just put it on paper. If I ever want to come back to it, I got that reference. And it's an interesting challenge to draw on the paper when you have to visualize the different angles. So I have that 3/4 from the bottom with looking up towards the cockpit there, and you're rotating it in your imagination or your mind's eye to figure out what it would look like from the other side. Because that top one was I'm just throwing sort of random shapes on top of each other to end up where I want to be. I'm not really thinking about the structure in 3D at that point in time. And then I start working on the rear view with those legs articulated up in more of a airplane or jet configuration. It takes a little bit of effort mentally, but I struggled with it a bit and came to a sort of a conclusion. Anyway, I have to apologize for my ripped up and ratted out sweater. It is one of the few winter items I have. And we've been getting nailed in the deep south with some cold here, and have to go dig out my winter clothing. And my shed is not heated, my workshop shed. So I use this sweatshirt for everything, changing oil and cutting wood and drawing apparently. I tried to put a cockpit in there with a pilot just to give the cue that it is a manned vehicle, and that the cockpit and the canopy that would be a circle with a dome over the top. And there was so much Japanese animation from that time that had such cool designs. I know Star Blazers was much earlier than Robotech, but even that, the design of the fighter craft and all the enemy vessels, the Gamelon ships, fantastic. I love that stuff. Even what was much later, past maybe the same era of as Robotech, but much further into the future than Star Blazers was even the GI Joe cartoons with all their vehicle designs. They weren't presented so well, I guess, on the animated show, but the toys and the designs that they came up with for those toys were awesome, fun. What a great job that would be to just sit there and design, come up with toy concepts. I wonder how that's even done anymore. You just have some AI machine crank out all your toys, all your designs. You could riff on it, have it riff on a initial design. And this was, I guess, from the speaking in terms of how this thing would operate, would be those legs would swing down and you'd get a vertical takeoff and landing situation, and those legs would just swing back up to create a fighter craft, I guess. I don't know what the purpose of that would be, if that's even something worth having. If it provides any tactical advantage, it wouldn't even turn into a robot. It was just the legs would change position. It's essentially just a fancy thrust vectoring, I guess, right? And that's just a quick and dirty little corner sketch. I was trying to practice that from the back again, work it out, the view from that back again in a smaller form, or just trying to exercise my ability to do it. And the next one, I want to try and throw in some color. I'm real timid with the pen and ink. I don't know why. I mean, these aren't like life and death situations, so I don't know why it intimidates me so. Maybe I'm afraid of screwing up the picture and I don't want to go back and do it again. But I'm hesitant to just throw in some harsh darks in there or some super duper heavy blacks in case I doesn't look right, and you can't I can't control Z, I can't undo it. So I'm a bit of a coward. But I find the paint, doing it with the acrylic and water, it lets me work up to it. So you can start really a light shade of gray, and then if it looks like it's working out, you can pile on some darkness. I'm not really worried about shading or super accurate light, which direction the light's coming from. I'm just trying to emphasize the outline and highlight the design of the overall layout of the vehicle or the ship or whatever the subject is. And this is probably something I will revisit in the future in forms of 3D once I get some time and finish up some other stuff. I'm really trying to follow through with some of these projects I have in play. I so have a tendency to be distracted and move on to the next new thing. These would be your missile launchers. Here's your bottom. And I think we are getting close to the end here. I went ahead and threw in some white to try to highlight that. I really want to just get the shine on the window, but I ended up trying it all other places and see it. I think it worked out. Yeah, interesting result. I don't know. All right. And there we go. If you stuck around this long, I really appreciate your time and thanks for watching. If you want to come back again, we will be doing this again. Okay. See you later. Bye.